Okay, thank you, Janet, for that lovely introduction. Today, we're going to be talking about helping your clients understand their foreign credentials. And as Janet already mentioned, my name is Jody Tingling, and I'm Program Manager at WES Global Talent Bridge. So here's a little peek at our agenda for today. So I'm going to talk a little bit about World Education Services. We're going to discuss credential evaluation, what it is, and the main purpose for that. We'll also talk about WES Evaluation Services, as well as a section on how to essentially help your clients in understanding their foreign credentials. And then we'll have a question and answer period where you guys can ask me any questions that you may have. Okay, so a little bit about World Education Services. So our mission is to advance the global mobility and integration of people into academic and professional settings by evaluating and advocating for the recognition of internationally educated qualifications and enabling individuals to fully utilize their education. So WES is an international not-for-profit organization, and we are a designated service for Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, so our IRCC, since 2013, which basically means as new immigrants apply to immigrate through the Express Entry program, WES is a designated organization to do a education credential assessment. We also have over 40 years of experience, completed over 1 million evaluations, and WES evaluations are recognized by thousands of educational, business, and governmental institutions in Canada and the United States. I'll also mention that we do have a very stringent credential evaluation process that includes a custom-built database that contains over 40 years of research and data from more than 200 countries and jurisdictions, including 40,000 educational institutions, 20,000 academic credentials and equivalencies, and 1,600 grading scales. And a little bit about WES Global Talent Bridge, which is the specific program that I work in. This is a program of World Education Services that is dedicated to helping skilled immigrants fully utilize their talents and education in the United States and Canada. So what we offer webinars, Pathway to Success seminars, e-newsletters, networking events, and program referrals. I would encourage you to subscribe to us so that you and your clients don't miss out on any events or resources. And you can subscribe at wes.org/ca/subscribe. We also have our website, and we have our tools, newsletters, and e-guides that you can access. Okay, so now I'm going to get into credential evaluation. So a credential evaluation is essentially a comparison of international academic credentials to the Canadian standard according to our educational system. So for example, if your client has immigrated from another country and has previous education from where they previously resided, they can get their credentials assessed through WES to determine the Canadian equivalency of their education. So WES is also one of 6 credential evaluation organizations that offer credential evaluation services. So if you are speaking with clients about credential evaluation services, it is important to understand why they may need a credential evaluation, as well as the appropriate credential evaluation agency to refer clients to. So the type of clients that would need a credential evaluation are individuals with international education at the post-secondary level, individuals considering relicensing in Canada, and individuals considering attending a post-secondary institution. On your screen, you will see what we call end users. So these would essentially be the places where credential evaluations would be accepted. So when you're working with your clients, you should understand why you may need to recommend that they would get a credential evaluation. So they may need it for employment purposes, for a licensing body. They may need it for a university or college, for apprenticeship program, and of course for immigration purposes. And now I will get into each of these purposes. Okay, so for the individuals might need a credential evaluation for employers. So a credential evaluation would allow employers to essentially understand the education of someone who is internationally educated. So they will be able to get a better understanding of what their education means in Canada. So many larger organizations that have a human resources department will ask their clients who have international education for a credential evaluation during a part of their screening process. So for example, I know that the TTC, so the Toronto Transit System, will ask candidates to get a credential evaluation so they can verify that their education is at the appropriate level for the position they applied for. Some employers have strict educational requirements, and so a credential evaluation would be required for quality assurance purposes. Getting a credential evaluation is also a great way for internationally educated professionals to market their education so that employers have a better understanding of candidates' educational qualifications. Once your client has a credential evaluation, it is important that you encourage them to market this as a part of their application. So you should be encouraging clients to include a tagline in their resume, such as the one on your screen. So in this example, we have an individual that has a Bachelor of Engineering degree from India, and they got their credentials evaluated by World Education Services. So this is the line that we recommend that clients put on their resume. So it says, education evaluated by World Education Services as equivalent to a bachelor degree in Canada, specializing in engineering. So you should also encourage your clients to include their credential evaluation report as a part of their application that goes with their resume and cover letter as well as the tagline in their resume. This official report will help employers better understand international education during the hiring process. And essentially including both this tagline as well as a credential evaluation report during the application phase to employers takes the guesswork out for employers to understand a job applicant's educational background. And for those of you who are job developers or working with job developers, this line can also be marketed to employers verbally. So for example, if you're speaking with an employer, you can tell them your client's education has been evaluated and authenticated and it's equivalent to a Canadian bachelor degree in this particular example. All right, so another purpose to get your credentials evaluated is because of licensing purposes. So if your client is planning on getting back into their licensed profession, they will need to get a credential evaluation completed. So each licensing body has its own requirements, and national and provincial bodies in the same profession can vary. So the first step will be for you to find out if your client was in a licensed field and if they actually do want to get relicensed here in Canada. So if they do want to get relicensed, then they need to contact both their national licensing board and the provincial licensing board in their profession to find out the requirements and the institutions where the clients must get their credentials assessed. So, for example, in the field of nursing, internationally educated nurses must first get their credentials assessed by their national body, which is the National Nursing Assessment Service. And once their education is assessed and other requirements met, so for example, possible language requirements, then the national body provides a report on the next steps, which should include how to then register with the provincial licensing body. Both national and provincial licensing bodies have different requirements, so it's important to reinforce this to clients to find out the requirements from both national and provincial bodies that they would like to relicense with. So a great website that I recommend that you guys take note of is the Canadian Information Centre for International Credentials, and that is CICIC.ca, which is on your screen as well. Here you can look up and find out about the processes to relicense in a profession. So this is also a very useful tool to go through with your clients to help them understand the process, what would be required of them, and their time frame. So really with this website, you go in, you put in the individual's previous occupation and the occupation they want to get into, and it'll let you know whether or not they're in a licensed profession, and if they are in a licensed profession, what are the next steps that they need to take, and what licensing body do they need to contact first. So relicensing is typically a long process. Clients most likely will need to acquire some form of Canadian experience within their field to gain profession-specific hours. So this is actually an area that you can help your clients with, whether it's looking into volunteering opportunities, mentorships, or career-specific programs, so bridging programs, for example, to help clients gain Canadian experience in their sector. So clients may also need to be presented with other options besides relicensing. So in both cases, you'll probably need to help your client with trying to find employment within an alternative or related field where they can use their transferable skills. So keep this in mind whenever you are working with clients you would like to, that would like to relicense essentially within their field. And on your screen, this is an image from CICIC, and this is basically looking at the requirements for a regulated occupation and non-regulated occupation. So for example, in a regulated occupation, your client should consult the regulatory body or apprenticeship office of the province the client plans to practice. And for a non-regulated profession, the client would need to check if there is a professional association or apprenticeship office that belongs to their profession, again, in the province the client plans to reside. And for employers, requirements could also be diverse. However, there may be certification, licensing, or registrations involved. Okay, so the next purpose for a credential evaluation would be for educational purposes. So educational institutions require internationally trained professionals to have a credential evaluation in order to understand their education in relation to a school's program. So requirements are different between each university and college, programs within the same university or college, and they could also be different for full-time versus part-time versus continuing education or even online programs. So again, you should be encouraging your client to contact the school's admissions office to find out program-specific requirements if they need to obtain credit and block transfers and additional admissions requirements. And again, each institutions have their own preferences for where individuals get their credential evaluations done. So it's important to send that message that clients do need to contact the admissions department to find out more information. All right, so another source of getting a credential evaluation is for apprenticeship purposes. So credential evaluation is also essential for meeting educational requirements to gain admissions for pre-apprenticeship programs. So this is used to see if applicants meet the minimum educational requirements, which is often a high school diploma, and if they have taken any additional courses that qualifies as meeting some of the apprenticeship curriculum requirements. So again, you can encourage your clients to contact the pre-apprenticeship program office, check local colleges for programs, program-specific credential and program-specific credential evaluation requirements. And lastly, you need a credential evaluation for immigration purposes. So as previously mentioned, new immigrants who have recently immigrated to Canada within the last 5 years under the skilled worker class will have had a credential evaluation already completed before even coming into the country. So this is a requirement specifically for the Express Entry program. So when getting to know about your client's work history, you can also ask them when they immigrated to Canada if they have a credential evaluation report. So this can be used, again, to help market their education as well. They can get an upgraded report if they need this for a specific purpose. All right, so there isn't one universally accepted credential evaluation service. And sometimes, depending on your client's goals, they may require more than one credential evaluation. So you should be, again, encouraging your clients to contact the end user that require a credential evaluation to understand the specific requirements. You can also support your client by pointing them to the right resources in order to start their research. Okay, so now I'm going to get into a little bit about the WES evaluation services. So above is what I will be talking about. So if you go to our website, wes.org/ca, click on Tools and Advice, then Free Tools, including our International Degree Preview tool, which I'll get into a little bit later, but essentially this tool helps your clients understand their education. It's a free tool to quickly assess what their educational requirements is comparable to in Canada. And I'll talk about a little bit about this a bit later on. We also have our webinars, events for still immigrants, our blog posts, and access to our e-guides. I should mention we recently released a guide on career pathways to get into the nursing profession in Canada, which would be helpful for internationally trained nurses as well as service providers such as yourselves who work with skilled immigrants to help use these guides for people who are interested in getting into nursing in Canada. We will also be coming out with other guides in more professions this year as well, so stay tuned. So this essentially is the evaluation process, and I think it's important to really understand what the process entails and what it involves before clients really commit to doing the evaluation of their credentials. So this is essentially our evaluation process, this first step is for applicants to submit their applications online. So next they need to submit all the required documents for the evaluation, which can again be found on our website. And once we receive all the required documentation, WES then reviews all the documents submitted to verify and authenticate applicants' credentials. And then the final steps, WES produces a report documenting Canadian equivalency. WES also submits these reports directly to the institutions that require the report. And now I will go over the various types of reports that individuals can get through our credential evaluation services. So this kind of credential evaluation is called a ECA, or an Educational Credential Assessment. So again, those who have recently immigrated to Canada within the last 5 years under the Skills Worker Class program would have need to get this specific evaluation completed in order to come to Canada. So this evaluation describes the individual's credential, requirements for entry into their program, program length, and the Canadian equivalency of the individual's credential. This one is called a document by document. This provides the Canadian equivalency of an internationally educated professional's credential. So this will describe each credential, including the name of the credential, requirements for program entry, and program length. This one is essentially used for first-year university admissions and employment, and this is simply just looking at the evaluation of their degree. The course by course, this one is a very much more detailed report. It also provides the Canadian equivalency of the client's credentials and Canadian GPA, as well as the semester credits and grade equivalents for each course taken. So this type of evaluation is typically used for transfer credits, prior learning assessments, graduate university admissions, and licensing boards, so they can assess the programs taken and grades achieved. So if an immigrant has a credential evaluation already done for immigration purposes, and they have an end user in mind, they can upgrade their report for additional fee for this particular type of evaluation. And this type of evaluation is usually used by again, licensing body and university admissions, so they can really assess the curriculum that an individual has gone through. And lastly, we have a credential evaluation for refugees. So last year, WES started a pilot project for Syrian refugees who had fled their homes under dangerous circumstances and have therefore not been able to obtain their official academic records, either because it's too dangerous or because the educational system or institution is disrupted or devastated due to conflict. So because of our expertise and extensive database on post-secondary institutions around the world, we were able to evaluate the documents refugees did have by providing a detailed assessment or reconstruction of their program of study based on our knowledge of the curriculum. While it's not considered an official WES verification method, it has helped provide refugees with an assessment of their educational equivalency in Canada, and these individuals can now present their educational assessment to post-secondary institutions, licensing boards, and to employers. So this program is currently undergoing a review in order to launch phase 2 of it. So hopefully this spring it will be launched again. And I do want to mention that this does not replace our highly verified method of assessing credentials, but it's really to help those who cannot undergo our standard method because of their circumstances. Okay. So we usually recommend, once a client wants to get a credential evaluation done, we usually recommend that they get the International Credential Advantage Package, ICAP, because WES can store verified academic transcripts and can send clients evaluation packages directly to colleges, universities, and regulatory bodies. And then this is also a brief synopsis of some of our basic fees. And again, this is located on our website for more information on that. So one of the things that you may need to consider if you do have clients with international education are potential funding sources. So the credential evaluation is essentially an investment for clients. And if they do not have the funds to do this as a worker in the field, you can consider seeking opportunities, seeking support, such as looking into Employment Ontario, if you could use this as a part of a client's job search and support funding. Also, Ontario Works, employment or training, under employment or training supports. And also really consider, like I said, consider this to be an investment. So for example, if a client wants to either, relicense in their field or take additional education, it's worthwhile to invest in getting a credential evaluation to understand what their education is comparable to versus just really starting over again in Canada, which can be quite time consuming and costly. So it is an investment for clients, but it is definitely well worth it. And now a little bit about the application process. So if you head on over to our website, it's a fairly simple process. Like new applicants, we just click on, get started. And then they would, if clients are already in the country, they would select WES Standard Application. And then clients will basically just enter in their personal information, select the evaluation type. And with this step, it will tell clients the documents they will be required to send to us, including a clear and legible copy of the degree they want to be evaluated, an official transcript, either sent directly from the school in a signed or stamped sealed envelope, which is the recommended method, or the school can provide the transcript to the client to send to WES. The document, again, must be attested, dated, placed in a sealed envelope, and that is signed or officially stamped across the back of the envelope. If the envelope is opened or no signature is stamped, then WES cannot accept the document. What I do recommend for clients, even before they start this process of getting their credentials evaluated, is actually to look up our required documents section. So again, this is all located on our website. Essentially, this allows individuals to preview the documents they need to collect before they start the application process. Okay, and then we do tell clients that they should fill out the academic records request form to help request documents from their school back home as well. And all documents should be mailed by postal mail or courier service to our head office at 2 Carlton Street. Then once they submit all the documents, there will be a review of their application to ensure all information is correct. And then once a client fills out their information, they will get a WES reference number, which they will need to include on all envelope packages and any correspondence with WES. And the example above shows how clients should be addressing their documents via mail or courier service. And once all documents are received, it takes WES 7 business days to complete their credential evaluation report. All documents must be mailed to WES. WES does not accept documents delivered in person. And obviously this is so we can track all their documents received. Okay, so now I'm going to get into how you can help your clients in knowing the information I just shared within this webinar. So I kind of go through a 5-step process to help clients essentially understand their education. So let's go into each of these steps. So step 1, identify your client's goals. So I'm sure you guys are doing this already through your case management processes. Ask relevant questions. So for example, what are your goals in Canada? Finding out if they were previously in a licensed profession, if they require upgrading in their field, or if they're seeking opportunities within a non-regulated field, and if it would require an employer to better understand their education. If clients do not understand the landscape for their profession in Canada, they may need to do additional research to understand what may be required of them, and you may need to help them in this process, as it could be, of course, quite tricky to navigate a new setting in Canada and understanding the professional requirements within their field. Step 2, essentially, is understanding the purpose of a credential evaluation. So if clients have an end user that require a credential evaluation, and again, an end user can be an employer, licensing body, university, college, apprenticeship program, or immigration office, then you would most likely recommend that they get a credential evaluation. So you can access our free equivalency tool. So if you go to our website, wes.org.ca, tools and advice, then you will see our international degree preview tool that can help your clients understand their degree equivalency in Canada. So I do recommend that you use this tool to help your client understand their educational equivalency in Canada. And really, this can be used to help start the conversation of career planning in Canada. So what you do once you get to this website, you click on preview your degree. So this tool allows you to preview your international education and its equivalency in Canadian standards. So again, this is a free preview tool, so it is not in any way our official report, but it allows you to see what it would most likely be evaluated to. So I believe you just need to put in the client's information, so the school that they went to, their degree, the country, etc. And then once you input all of that information in there, then it will give you essentially a report of what the equivalency is in Canadian terms. So this is an example of what it would look like. Pardon the blurriness, but essentially it'll basically tell you the equivalency in Canada. So again, this tool can give your clients an initial preview of their education in Canada and really help you understand, essentially the next steps that they may need to take. And again, for those of you who work with employers, such as job developers, you can encourage employers to use this tool if they do not understand an applicant's education. So most of the time, job candidates' resumes have all the educational information that can be input into the system. So if employers are having a difficult time understanding somebody's education and are resistant to hiring them because of that, you can simply introduce this tool to them and they go to the website, input their information, and it will let them know what their education is worth in Canada, comparability in Canada. So step 3, determine if a credential evaluation is required. So after speaking with your client to understand their goals and their career path they would like to take in Canada, you will be able to determine if they do in fact need a credential evaluation. So asking yourself when you see your client if there is a immediate need for the credential evaluation, is there a purpose and function for it? And of course, is there an end user assigned? So is there an employer, is there a school, is there a licensing board, apprenticeship office that is assigned? Step 4, advise clients to contact end user. So there will be research needed to find out if there are national regulations, provincial territorial regulations, preferred credential evaluation service, if they have a preferred credential evaluation service, and of course the next steps. And then step 5, assist clients with the next steps, of course. Additional steps, which would be additional steps required from the end user. So this is usually a credential evaluation is usually part of this. They usually need their clients to gain more experience. There might be other application processes, and there could be other resources for testing involved. Also explore alternative and related careers. If not considering licensing, how can clients essentially use their transferable skills to get into another career path within Canada? Engage in conversations with employers, especially if they are hesitant to hire an internationally trained professional because they do not understand their education. Again, tell them about our degree preview tool, which is a way to better understand clients' education, and of course, employers can also request an evaluation report. So those are essentially the steps that you need to go through when you do meet with your clients, your internationally educated clients. And I've included a couple of case examples so that we can go through these steps. So if we think about step 1, which is identifying your client's goal. I'm sorry, let me read out the case example. So Manjeep is an internationally educated professional who recently immigrated to Canada 2 months ago. She has her master's degree in nursing and would like to practice as a nurse in Canada. So the first step upon meeting with Manjeep is asking if she would like to get back into her licensed career. I think that's an important step that we would need to ask Manjeep because she may or may not want to get back into her career. So that's something to consider. Step 2, understanding the purpose for a possible credential evaluation. So the purpose here would be for relicensing within her profession. Step 3, determine if a credential evaluation is required. So since Manjeep has said she would like to get back into her licensed profession, a credential evaluation would be required. So step 4 would be advise client to contact the end user. So you can help Manjeep look up the requirements in her profession. So again, by heading to the Canadian Information Centre for International Credentials. Again, that is CICI And in this case, Manjeep would need to contact the National Nursing Assessment Service because they are the first point of contact for initial application for registration, licensure for internationally educated nurses, and they would have the requirements for the kind of credential evaluation services and type of credential evaluation required for this process. And then step 5, assist client with next steps. So the licensure process, again, can take a pretty long time. So things that can be done while helping the applicants are going through ensuring that the client has all documents required to do a credential evaluation, helping the client understand the licensure process, reviewing other requirements needed to become a nurse. So for example, upgrading courses, gaining Canadian experience, references, language classes, etc. And of course, exploring alternative and related careers while going through the licensure process in order to gain Canadian experience. And then we have a second case example. So Jiang was a marketing manager in his home country of Shanghai, China. He worked in one of the top banks in his country and would like to apply to the major banks in Canada. How would you advise Jiang? So upon meeting with Jiang, one of the things you may want to ask is if he has started to look at any job postings in banks to identify employer requirements. In this case, since positions in marketing is more than likely to need a degree, and because banks have strict educational criteria for educational requirements, Jiang would benefit from having a credential evaluation. And so if he has one, so for example, if he immigrated here recently under Express Entry Program, then the next discussion can be on how to market himself to employers. So again, adding the tagline to his resume and encouraging him to include his credential evaluation report as part of his application. You can also encourage Jiang to conduct some informational interviews to find out what exactly employers are looking for and how he can proceed to take the next steps. So these are some examples to really highlight some of the steps that you can begin to take once you meet with internationally educated professionals. I think the main point here in terms of credential evaluation is that research does need to be conducted in terms of the end user requirements. It's most important for individuals to find out what the end users need in terms of a credential evaluation, the type of credential evaluation services, as well as the type of credential evaluation reports that these end users may need. And of course, there are a lot of follow-up processes that you guys could do in the meantime while they're getting this done. So that essentially concludes my presentation, and I welcome any questions and comments at this particular point in time.
So no questions yet. Can you hear me, Jody?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, a lot of information.
Yes, hopefully that wasn't information overload.
Well, you know, but that's okay because, as I say, they can refer back to it. So, you know,
yeah,
certainly. And so I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. It's really much appreciated.